It's Erev Shabbos Kodesh. There's a fascinating Bava Kama Daf in this week's Parsha. It talks about the kruvim. So it says that you have to have two, on top of the Aron, you have two kruvim. I'll just quote you about two. You have two kruvim, and they face each other. Upneim ishalach, and the two kruvim face each other. So the Bava Kama Daf says, "K'mo shnei chavedim shenoisim v'noisim b'Torah." That the kruvim were built on top of the Aron, facing each other like a charusa. When you learn Torah together, that was to show that the ideal way of learning Torah is not to learn on your own. As more than but you should actually learn the charusa, which is what we're doing. Each other. So are you yaitze with Zoom? Because we see each other. So that is an interesting question. Okay, we are up to the Gemara Daf Kuv Vav. We're up to Daf Kuv Vav. And the last thing we learned was Ilfa. It was like Rav Huna that says that if I swore, the guy says you owe me money, whatever it is, and I swore that I owe you nothing. You said swear, and I swore that I owe you nothing. Even if A didn't come afterwards and say that I owe you, I don't have to pay you. Because the moment you accepted my shvur, I don't have to pay. Because it says in the pasuk, "V'lokar baila v'lo yishalem." The bailim, the owner, took my shvur. I no longer have to pay. No, Kuvav up here in the Gemara Gufa. 8 lines on the top of the page. 8 lines on the top of the page. Gufa, let's analyze this. Amar Rav Huna. So Gemara repeats now what we just learned. Rav Huna said, Rav Huna said, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav. Mana li biyadcha, you owe me $100. But the other guy says, Ein lach biyadi klum. The other says, I owe you nothing. The nishba, and he swore that I owe you nothing. You ubo Adim. Adim came along afterwards and says, yes, you do owe the money. Potter, you are potter. Why? Shenema. The potter says, v'lokar bailav, if the owner took. What did he take? He took my shvur, v'lo yishalem, and you don't have to pay. You don't have to pay. So what do we learn from that? We should keep the Bible shvur, shuvah mishal mammon. Once you get the shvur, you no longer pay. You no longer pay mammon. Omar Rava says, Rav, Mistabra Milsa the Rav. That when does Rav say his din? When does Rav say his din? That if you swore, you no longer have to pay, even if Adam caught you out afterwards. Is b'milva. Only when it comes to a loan, I had a right to use the money and I spent the money, so your money is no longer here. I paid you back with my shvur. I come after and say, but you owed the money, you lied, you swore false, doesn't matter. You accept my shvur, that's it. But the pikadon, pikadon, even when it's sitting in the other person's possession, who owns it? It's not the other person's, it's always the balabasis. So even though the guy swore about it, that I don't have it, but the fact is, whose is it? The other person. So if the Adam caught you out, you got to give it back. That's what it always makes sense. However, but I swear, Amar Rav holds, I feel a bit pekadon. Rav holds that even by pekadon, Reuben says, Shimon, I gave you something to mine for me, and Shimon swears, no, you didn't. And then later witnesses come along and say, yes, you did. You did take something to mine for him. You're still potter because you gave the shvur. The very pasuk that we're talking about, where it says "V'lokar bailav," is talking about there's a shvur of Hashem Esachar, and he swears that he did not use it for his own personal use. It's gone, and it says in the pasuk there, "V'lokar bailav v'lo yishalem." The owner took the shvur. You don't have to pay. So that's what it's talking about. Says the Gemara. Yes, Rav Nachman repeated the whole Gemara. Rav Acha has a question. It says, "Heichen pigdoini." The guy says, the rumor says, "Shimon, where's the pekadon I gave you?" I'm like, "Oh, but I lost it." And let's say the Shem Mechidim, so he's potter. And then Mashbi Echani, I make you swear. But he says, "Amen, yeah, I swear that I lost it." And then the Adim in my come along with us. What you lost it? You stole it. He's mishalem es again. He has to pay the principal. What about? So he wasn't toying. If he was tiny that it was stolen from me, toying tiny as ganav, and then Adam said, no, it wasn't stolen from you. You yourself the ganav. Then you pay kefil. You're the ganav. But he said, I lost it. So he said, I lost it, so then you pay only the keren. What about hoide ma'atzmai? First he swore that I never got it, then I lost it, then he's made look. The truth of the matter is I used it for myself. Then, like we had before, you swore false, and then you make hoidah, is mishalim keren v'chemed v'asham. You pay all three. The principal, and you pay the penalty, and you pay the carbon asham. But what is he clearly from here? He gave a shavua, and then Adam came along and said, but you lied. The din is he has to pay keren. So what does that prove? You, Rav, said that once he gave a shvur, that exempts him because that's a form of payment, even if Eddie come later and fine, then say he's a liar, doesn't matter. It says clearly here that even though he swore that it was lost, so he was potter, and then Eddie came along and said, no, you're the ganef, that you ate it, he has to pay keren. Why? Why is he paying keren when l'chayda he swore? What we're talking about here. The shavua here doesn't count. When do we say shavua is considered a form of payment if it was done inside a bezin? But here it was done outside the bezin. The other guy said, "Hey, where's my object?" And he said, "I lost it." He said, "Oh, I swear that you lost it," and he swore. But it was outside the bezin, so it does not have the din of a shavua, and therefore it's not a form of payment. The Torah is talking about in a bezin, inside a bezin. If you're talking about outside bezin, I don't understand the sefer. It says, "Heichem pigdoin." The next case in there is, if we might pick on amalei nignut. The Brisa says it was stolen. This time he says it was stolen. Not it was lost, it was stolen. Maj biachani, I make you swear, but Adam will come along Adam and say, hey, you stole it. Here in this case, he's a toyin tainas ganef. He claims it was stolen. And then turned out to be that he himself was a ganef. The din is that he's a ganef. He's true ganef. But he pays double as well. Mishalim tashumi kefil. Now that question is going to be, if all of this took place outside of Bezin, then he doesn't pay kefil because it's not considered toyin tainas gana. When is it a toyin tainas gana? Inside of Bezin. Not, and you're telling me the price is outside the Bezin. So where's the kefil come in? Obviously he's in the Bezin. And yet, if in the first case, if the agent come along and say, hey, you say it was lost, no, it wasn't, you stole it, he pays keren. I swore, and you said before that if you swear, you Rav said that if you swear, you accepted my shvur, I have to pay. And must be talking about inside a bezin. Because if it's outside a bezin, in the second case in the Braisa, you wouldn't be paying kefil. Because his shvur is not considered a shvur of a toyin tainas ganef. So the Gemara, this is all part of the Braisa. And if he's mighty, he pays the penalties. Now, these are gedat chutzal bezin, make a kefil. Where do you find kefil outside a bezin? You know what? If I really wanted to, I can answer very simple. The two parts of the Braisa are talking about two different cases. Reish is talking about chusel bezin, like I told you before. That's why the shvur does not patter him, and if the Adam come along and say that no, you stole it, he has to pay the keren. Or the sefer where he said it was stolen, and turned out to be that, and he said it was stolen, and then it turned out to be that he himself was the one who stole it, and he pays kefil. Was talking about a case with bid bezin. Two different circumstances. Here it's outside of bezin, here's inside of bezin. But Rabbi Nachman says, however, I want you to know, Taki, you'll find the Gemara many times we have these kind of answers. That's why we have no brainer. But I have a better answer, so forget this answer. I want to answer you. They're both talking about the bezin, but not all shavuas inside a bezin carry the weight of a shavua. You know when a shavua inside a bezin carries the weight of a shavua? If the bezin ruled that you have to swear. But if Reuven, the mafkid, screams, Shimon, swear that I didn't give you, and Shimon swears, that does not have the status of a shvur. So even though, again, it's not exactly the same case, the first case of the Braisa, the second, because the first case of the Braisa, the reason why he has to pay is not a real shvur. Why isn't it a real shvur? Because it's the mafkid who told him to swear. And in the sefer, the Braisa is talking about where the bezin told him to swear, and that's why in the sefer, if he was caught out, he pays kefil. But it's still much closer to each other. They're both inside a bezin. To have one inside a bezin, one outside, is a pretty doichik answer when the Braisa doesn't make any exclusions here. Both in the bezin, like kasha, can big kafats. The mafkid jumped ahead and said to the nifkid, "Go ahead and swear." Does not have the weight of a shvur. So later he swore, and then Aiden came along and said, "You're a ganav," then he has to pay. Can bishaloi kafat. The mafkid didn't jump in ahead. The bezin ruled you have to swear. The bezin ruled you have to swear. Then it has a full din of a shvur, and if it's a toyin tainas ganif, he said it was stolen, and it turned out to be that he himself was a ganif. The Torah says you have to pay like a ganif, double. I don't understand. The Rav look, I know for a fact that you don't paskin like Rav. What are you trying to answer for them for Rav? Interesting. We have a lot of times Rav tries to answer questions on the Abaya and vice versa. Here, finally, what asks, why are you doing it? Why? Exactly, fakert. Here's an eye to you. What do you have to try for Rav? The Rav, I'm just telling you how Rav would learn the Mishnah, not me. And because this is also shtickle doichik. The Rav hochim etartas. This is how Rav would learn the Mishnah, but not I personally don't necessarily hold this one. So Rav, I don't understand how can anybody argue with Rav. Rav Krokam, but Rav said that the pasuk is talking about Pekodim. Remember, without Rav, you would say it's only this din only applies to halva. That if you say I owe you $100 and I swear and I say no, and you make me swear and I swear I don't owe you, then the lakar ba'il yisham, that's payment. But Pekodim l'cheder, whatever it is, belongs to the ba'il. Rav's chiddush is that even by Pekodim, and what's the base of the chiddush? Because that very pasuk, the lakar ba'il yisham, is talking about a shayman. So Rab brings a pasuk. How can you even argue? Rav Krokam. So you answer, we know the pasuk, but we use the pasuk for another drasha altogether, and that is, what's the purpose of a shua? To collect or to exonerate? From this pasuk, we learn out the lokach ba'ila v'lo yishalom. He took the shua, and you don't have to pay. So for what do you learn from here? Who does the swearing? Not the plaintiff doesn't. You don't say to the plaintiff, okay, swear and take the money. Shua is not strong enough to take money. We say to the defendant, swear, and you're exempt from paying the money. We use the pasuk that you swear, you're part of paying. Who's the one who swears? The one who had to pay. Mostly Rav Nuna asks a question now on Rav. So you Rav say even by Pekodin, if he swears, and then later he's caught out to be a lie, you don't have to pay. So most of them, there's a question. It says, "If this is possible, work out a case where he ended up swearing 5 times on the same claim 5 times. Like in other words, the balabas took him to 5 different batadinim and never told each bezin that he was ready. Yes, they were not the Torah, and each time the guy had to swear again. He swore 5 times on the same incident. Bein bifnei bezin says clearly here. Bein shalai bifnei bezin, outside the bezin. The kibbur love, and he denied it, or the chafar love, he denied it. He has to pay for each time, and then later, he admitted has to pay head and mechemish and so on. Now, in order to be considered, for the shavua to bring the penalty, is only if you were kaifer mammon. Remember, we had the first lesson of Shabbat Pruta. If you swore about it, you don't, and you don't pay no more money because the shvua had to exempt you from paying the value. So somehow or another, every time he swore, he was swearing about in of mammon. We're going to ask the obvious question: if already after the first time he swore, he's already potter from paying, so the second time he swore, he's no longer being kaifer mammon. So asking about what's the reason? It could have been made every single time. Now. So right now we understand, Rav Nuna who holds it out. It makes no difference whether he was Maida or he wasn't, whether Adim came along and found him a liar, or whether he personally was Maida. Once he swore, according to Rav, since you gave a shvur, even afterwards you were Maida that you lied, you don't have to pay. So now I'll answer my question. So it's clear over here that you can pay 5 times. He says you couldn't, even though you weren't made. The fact that he could have been made means that the shua had a potential to be kaifer mammon, and therefore every time you saw falsely, you made the yichayv. Now, he can't answer kafel. You can't say that the mafkid went ahead. Hishbia loktan. It says clearly hishbia olav. Hishbia means the bezin forced to swear. Chutz bezin and matzah amin. Well, you can't say it's outside the bezin. Bifnei bezin tanu. It says in front of a bezin. The bezin is the one who made it. It says hishbia olav. Bein bifnei bezin. Bein shalai bifnei bezin. Clear. That means bifnei bezin means he was standing inside a bezin. So your answer you gave before doesn't work here. How's Rav going to explain this? That's Rav Nuna's question to Rav, or about Rav. Even though he's a Talmud Rav, it's about Rav. Now we'll answer one of these deichik answers. That the 2 cases are talking about different things. Let's dadnik tani. That what? If it's bifnei bezin, it's talking about kafetz olam. That the mafkid said in front of the bezin to swear. If it's chutul bezin, the bezin ruled swear, and instead of swearing in front of the bezin, they went outside the bezin. So neither of them have the status of a shvu, and therefore he has to pay if he was caught out by edim or if he was made. So doichik, but that's how we're going to answer it. Ishbiyala chutul bezin, ubezin kafetz. The case of ishbiyala, the bezin told him to swear for whatever reason, didn't swear in front of the bezin, they went outside. In the case where that what do you call it? That was inside the bezin. Mafka jumped ahead before the bezin had a chance to make a ruling. Most of Rav is going to ask a question. He's going to say that Rav, you understood that Rav hold that even if you swore false and you were murdered, you were pot and your mother is falls, you don't have to pay anything because the lock up by the way shalom. Rav is going to ask if the Rav's din is chiddush only applies where Adam caught him out. But not if he was Maida, because the Torah clearly says if you were Maida, you have to go ahead and pay these penalties. So then, what's Avnun's question over here? The whole question is from Haida, but Haida doesn't. Rab agrees that if he swore false and he was Maida, he does have to pay, and therefore the Brisa makes sense according to Rab. So most of Rab, Bala it says like this: Balabai should tiny gana pekod. Balabai should tiny is gana by a pekod. The Nishban he swore the Haida was Maida. He was Maida. And then later Adam came. So it says like this. We had this before. If it was Maida, so this is a case of Maida, then Mishal Kerem B'Chayim Rashi, he pays a Kerem B'Chayim Rashi. Now Rav L'Chayda said that you don't have to pay anything because once he swore. Because the Rav is not talking about a case where you were Maida. He's talking about a case where you were caught out by Adam. But the Mishabo Adam Maida, if Adam came first, and then you were Maida, Mishal is only careful of Asham. You can't say, it says it clearly, that if Adam came first and then you were murdered, you pay kefil. Now, you can't tell me this happened outside the bezin. You can't tell me the mafkid because then it wouldn't be a case of kefil. Kefil telling. So says the following. If he personally was murdered, I don't care what he said. If he was murdered that he swore false, even Rav will be murdered that the guy has to pay. He has to pay because he swore false, and he was mighty that he swore false. That's what the Torah says. Loish not 20 times, other loish not 20 times. Ganev, lo yamarav. Rav was not talking about such a case. The Torah says he svada. The Torah clearly says that if he was mighty that he swore false, then he has to bring Hashamai and Mechamishisa Yosef. He has to do all the penalties. The bayish tuna kenev v'chemish. Number one. Number two. Toyin Tainas Gamet, and here another you see it. If the Adam came first, he has to pay as well. But Rav said that if he even in the case where Adam contradicts him, you don't have to pay. So the Rav says, I'm going to limit further now. When does Rav say his din? Only if you tied it, I lost it. Not if you tied it, it was stolen. Because the Torah clearly says that if he tied it, it was stolen. He now replaces it. He becomes the ganef. So therefore, he has to pay whatever he has to pay.
I think we just said that it doesn't matter regardless of what his time is. As soon as
if he was made, that was good. If he was made that he swore false, it makes no difference what time is. If he was caught by Adam, and he tiny that he was a ganef, even Rav says he pays. Now that he caught a ganef, he pays. When does Rav say his whole din? He tiny as it was lost. He tiny as it was lost, and Adam caught him out. Then he doesn't have to pay because what do you call it? In the case of a loan, because the middle so he had a right to spend it, and he swore. He took his swore. It doesn't matter. He caught him out later. So again, Toyin Tainas got it. If he was stolen, look, see what it says. It says clearly that he has to pay kefil. If he said that it was stolen. Remember the beginning of the seventh pedig there. We had those two psukim there. If he's the Toyin Tainas got it, he becomes the ganas. Ki ka'amar. You know what we're talking about over here? The case of Rav is he tiny that was lost. Then Nishba he swore, and the mafkid accepted it. And he was never made. Because if he was made, he would have to pay. Ubo Adam, and Adam came and found out he's like, boy, that's the only time that Rav says you accepted the shua, he's potter. Look how we took a Rav that was so wide, and we limited it to one case by a Pekodin where he tiny Avad, and he was caught out by Adam. But if he was made, pay. The tiny was stolen, and you're a liar, pay. So by this kind of Pekodin, or by Nova. Says the Gemara. So right now we understood Rabbi Hamnuna misunderstood Ravash. Rabbi Hamnuna misunderstood Rav. The way Rabbi understands that, Rabbi Hamnuna thought that Rav was talking about even if he was made, you're potter. Rabbi says you're wrong. Comes along Ravashi. Other Gamda, Ravashi. Rav Gamda came and relayed this whole controversy to Ravashi. Ravashi said, I don't understand. Rav Hamnuna, how me did the Rav? Rav Hamnuna is the Talmud of Rav. If he asked Rav about Hoida, that means he heard it directly from Rav that even in the case where the guy is Moida, he doesn't have to pay. He heard Rav Hoida, and that's why he asked the question. Was the price clear that he was Moida, he doesn't have to pay? How can Rav come along and change what Rav said? It doesn't make sense. Nunu was a Talmud Rav, he knows exactly what Rav said. He heard it from him. And he understood Rav saying that even if you're Moida, even if you're Maida. And he asked the question, but I said, which shows that you're Maida, that you have to pay. And he thought that I said, you're Potter. How could Rabbi come along a generation later, 2 generations later, and say, you don't understand Rabbi? What's going on here? I mean, Sai Ravashi and Sai Rabbi misunderstood Rabbi Hamnuna, as we'll see in a minute. What do you mean, Mr. Rabbi Hamnuna? All of Sovel Rabbi Ashi, Rabbi Achad always said Rabbi Ashi, Rabbi Hamnuna, you misunderstood Rabbi Hamnuna. Rabbi Hamnuna, of course, Rabbi Hamnuna knew that Rabbi was not talking about Haidah. And Rabbi misunderstood Rabbi Hamnuna, and you misunderstood Rabbi Hamnuna. That's why you're having this question on Rabbi. This was bothering Rabbi Hamnuna. He knew that Rabbi was only talking about a case where Adam contradict him, that's when he's putter. But if he was made, he has to pay. See, this is what he says. But this case here was that 5 times he's taken to 5 different courts, and each time you have to swear, because each time is called Kfiras Mammon. So let's understand. There's 2 possibilities. Either that he'll be caught out lying by Adam, or that he's made. As we'll say. The fact is he was not made. How can you call it Kfiras Mammon, but he wasn't made? Love us, that there's possibility that Adam will come along. There's a possibility that Adam come along, but you Rab hold that if Adam come along, he's putter anyway. So once he did the first shvuah, and you accepted it, that's the end of it. So the second shvuah, third shvuah was not a kfiras mammon anymore because he owed nothing. Nobody can tell me because he could have been made, but he wasn't made. Where's the kfiras mammon? And that was his question on that. If you say me that nishba, he also aided. If he swore. And Adim came along and said that he was a liar, and you have to pay money. Then I understand. Therefore, every single time, 5 times they got to pay because each time he was swearing to cancel a monetary payment. Then I can say, look, Adim could have come, he could have been made. If you tell me that the way Rav Taka holds, also Adim Potter, you're right. Rav only holds when it comes to Adam's Potter. But the first moment that he came along and he said so and so, and Adam came and contradicted him, if Adam came and contradicted him, so he's Potter now, according to Rav. If he is Potter, then what's the rest? Mi'ika mididila also sadi misadi be Potter. But now the Adam didn't come, but the Adam would have come. He would have been Potter. And yet we're saying, no, you have to continue paying each time you swore false because it could have come to a money. How? If he would have been Maida. But he wasn't Maida. He's maintaining that he doesn't. He wasn't Maida. And therefore, so they all misunderstood Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna also understood that I was only talking about a case of Adim. Not, but a case where he was Maida would have to pay. But he's saying, the Bryce said, there's no idea. What's more likely, Adim could have come. And if Adam would have come, he would be Potter. So what are you making him pay all these other payments for? And then Rav Hamnuna answered, you know, we're talking about over here. We're talking about over here is that it was Dodi Tani. It was either in the bezin, but the guy jumped ahead and it wasn't a bezin shvur, or it was outside the bezin and the bezin shvur. No idea. No, Rav Achasab was the time of Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi was born when Rav passed away.
I don't understand how.
So Rav Ashi misunderstood Rav Hamnuna, and Rav misunderstood Rav Hamnuna. They thought Rav Hamnuna is questioning from the Haidah, and therefore they're saying, I mean, he understood that Rav holds that even if you're Maida, you have to pay. So Rav Achasab said, Rav Ashi, you all misunderstood. You and Rav misunderstood. You know, you haven't even many times. In other words, no. He's saying. Rav Ashi's question was, Rav Hamnuna is definitely asking from Haidah, so what are you, Rav, asking questions of Rav Hamnuna, training Rav, if Rav Hamnuna is better than you? So Rav Achasab said, you misunderstood Rav Hamnuna, not misunderstood Rav. You misunderstood Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna knew that the Rav was talking about only by Eidim, not by Haidah. But, because Haidah you can't really argue, it says you have to swear. But you thought because he's brought a bright of Haidah, no, he's using that to say, since Eidim patted him, once the moment that if Adam would have come and contradicted him, he knows how, according to Rav, he no longer pays. What are the latest shvuahs coming to? He's not exempting himself from anything. Okay, a little bit confusing, but okay. Second one further, Amar Abchia, but Abba, Amar Abyechanan. We'll have a number of dinim now. Hatoyin Tainas Gana Pekotna. Somebody Tainas Gana by Pekotna. He says he was stolen. Now Mishal's okay, but that turned to be it was a lie that he was caught out. He had the animal there. He pays for. What about Tavach? Now he's a full-fledged Gana. And the Chiddush of Yechan is if he turned out that Tavach Lamacher, he shechted or sold it, a normal Gana pays 4 or 5 times. Even though this person received the object legally in his possession, the Chiddush is if he then we found out that he shechted, whatever, he has to pay 4 or 5 times. Hoyle the Ganef, since he's a Ganef, Mishal Shulman Kefil, since he's a Ganef, how do we know that? How do you make such a chiddush that a Shayman has to pay 4 or 5 times? He's not really a Ganef, he's just a Toyin Tain's Ganef. So we're going to compare a Toyin Tain's Ganef to a Ganef. Because remember, we have two psukim in the Torah about if you give it to a Shayman to watch for you. And we said one you two psukim and to tell you one is talking about a Ganef, a Toyin Tain's Ganef, one is talking about a Mamash Ganef. That was one opinion in the Gemara. One of the Gemara is both talking about 20 times Ganef. And how do you know a Ganef from him that you pay kafel on that from him matzah to matzah b'yodei? The other thing about it is we have two psukim by Shaymer that says that Chaim Shnai Misham you have to pay double. So one is talking about a Ganef, one is talking about 20 times Ganef. And because if you follow that view, one is talking about Ganef and one about 20 times Ganef, so there's a hekish. We're comparing, or the first thing I thought was about Metzina and then a hekish. We're comparing one to another. And what do we know about a Ganef? He pays above Chamisha. So here also he pays above Chamisha. That's what I'm saying here. That's what we would have thought. So we need to have a special limud that this person, this Shaymer, who only tiny is out of a stone, has all the same dinim as a Ganef in this respect. The Ganef Mishal Zom Kefil, a regular Ganef pays Kefil, and the Toyin Tiny Ganef also Mishal Zom Kefil. They're similar. Let's go a step further. My Ganef Zom Mishal Kefil, Tovach Machashal Zom Abel Chamisha. If he shechted, he paid 4 or 5 times. After Toyin Tiny Ganef, he begotten Kishim Mishal. When he pays, Tashim Kefil, he's Tovach Machashal Zom Abel Chamisha. So what are you talking about? If you said Metzina, then it has to be exactly the same, but they're not. If she came, when is the Ganef pay kafel? Even if he never swore. If Gadim found out that he was like going to court and said he was a Ganef, he pays. But when is the Toyin Tain's Ganef say? Only if he swore. If he just said it was stolen from me, but he never swore about it, he doesn't pay. So it's not the same. How do you compare the two? I'm going to say you're right. It's not a Metzina was I'm comparing two things. It's a Hakeshu. The Torah is two psukim. One pasuk talks about Toyin Tain's Ganef, one pasuk talks about Ganef, and they're near each other, and therefore we have a hekesh. The Torah is equating it, and it's not exactly the same. Ein meshivin al hekesh. The rule is on a hekesh. That's what the Torah wants. You can't ask questions. So therefore, we say one pasuk is talking about Toyin Tain's Ganef, one pasuk Ganef, but the Torah clearly says that a shaymer doesn't pay unless you swear because a shua shem mention name. Okay, can't argue with that. But the rest, we'll compare the two. So therefore, just like a Ganef pays 4 or 5 times, a Toyin Tain's Ganef pays 4 or 5 times. That makes sense according to the man Domer says Chad beganef v'chad b'toyin times ganef shapir. One pasuk to Ganef, one pasuk to times ganef. So you have a hekesh. I understand. Elo man Domer hay im him matzeh ganef v'im lo yimatzeh tavai b'toyin ganef. But the other opinion said that both talking about 20 times ganef. How do you know a ganef pays kafel from him im matzeh to matzeh b'yod? Different pasuk altogether. So how do you know that a Toyin Tain's Ganef pays 4 or 5 times? Nowhere in the sugya of Shemrim does the Torah say they pay 4 or 5 times. And when it answers Amri, we say Ganef. Could have said Ganef. It says Haganef. It says Haganef. Because it says Haganef, it comes to teach you the extra hay comes to teach you that a Toyin Tain's Ganef has all the same thing like the famous Ganef. Ganef, the Ganef. This guy is treated like the Ganef. And what do we know about the Ganef? That he pays 4 or 5 times. So here also, you pay 4 or 5 times. Because it says the pasuk, Im himatze Haganef yishalom shnayim. And we, according to this opinion, Im himatze Ganef. I'm not talking about a real Ganef. That's the other view. Here they talk about it's trying to be the Haganef. The Shaman himself was the Ganef. What is it Haganef? Because himatze Ganef that he was a Ganef. What's Ha? That he has the same dinim as the famous as an old Ganef. That's right. It says, Heichen Shoidi. The guy says, where's my Shoid? Nignav of stone. Mashbi Echani, I make you swear. He says, yes, okay, I swear. The Adim, come along, Adim and say, so his tiny was that it was he's 20 times Ganef. Adim come along and say, no, you're the Ganef. Is Mishal Tashum gave it kafel. Now, the question is very simple. If he ate it, how did he eat it? You have to shecht it. So why is he only paying kafel? He should pay 4 or 5 times. Now we're assuming the guy's a from Eid. Even though he's a Ganef, but he's very careful in kashrus. You only pay it kafel, you don't pay 4 or 5 times. So the Gemara if it's Ganef, it could be straight also. Because
you butchered it.
Oh, we learned before. In fact, we had according to Rab Shimon, if you shechted and it turned out to be a treifa, then you're not high 4 or 5 times because it has to be a shchita ruya. Shchita she'eina ruya we had in the early ayins is no, he goes on the pasuk. If it's not a proper shchita, It's not called shchita at all. So it has to be kosher.
If I took a knife and I killed the
You pay
animal,
double. You pay double. No, it's not. It's a pasuk.
4 or 5 times.
Why such a strong penalty? Because this is like really, you can never long do tshuva anymore. Cold by the animal's still around, maybe you can do tshuva. The moment you shechted, you sold it, that's it. Because according to Rab Shimon, if it's not shchita, it's not called shchita. Not called shchita.
But
It's
can I
like,
give back the animal?
doesn't matter. It's a kosher that's not called shchita. If the animal died, you can't give back either, but you don't pay more than that. Here's a
I took a knife. I
No.
throw it.
If you would have shot it, you would have to pay. No one says if you would have shot it with a shot bow and arrow and killed it, everyone says no shaila. You don't have to pay 4 or 5 times. You killed the animal. The Torah says tvachai. It's a shchita. Okay. So you further. That's a concept. The Lishmalei Gemara could have also answered. You could have. The Gemara could have answered. Not that it died in the Veda. Could have said that he shechted it properly. It turned out to be a mistake. And therefore it's not a shchita ruya, and therefore you don't pay the 4 or 5 times. Says the Gemara, because remember that Shimon says they have to be shchita ruya. And Gemara said no. Shchita like you said is also called shchita, and therefore you couldn't answer the answer. The Gemara is interesting. Gemara said could he give so many other answers? Why do you have to give the answer? Accuse him of being we have a problem with accusing the Yid because he's a god of Melabos. Interesting. So literally, why do we answer the Ben Bekua? Why do we answer that it was a ben pekua? Yeah, no, not only ben you don't have to shech at all, and that's why you don't pay 4 or 5 times because there's no shchita. How did he eat it? He ate it because a ben pekua doesn't need shchita. A ben pekua is a baby calf that was born inside. It was inside the mother's womb when you shechted the animal. Therefore, the shchita of the mother is good enough for the shchita of the baby calf, and therefore he ate it. And they accuse him of eating it that he's a ganim and he ate it. But why didn't he pay 4 or 5 times? He didn't shech it. Now how can he not shechting it? It's chafrum. Because it's ben pekua. Moses says, "Can I make it? Rabbi Yechal made it. I'm a ben pekua. Tom shchita. I made it hold that if it's a full 9 months baby, he requires his own shchita." Why didn't he answer? He could answer him that he already went to a din Torah, and once they go to a din Torah, he's no longer a ganav anymore. Now, if he does anything wrong, he's a gazan, and a gazan doesn't because everyone knows that he has it. He doesn't pay 4 or 5 times. So the like say they told him say 10. Like once the bezin pass him, go ahead and give him, pay him the principal, pay him the kafel. If that was the shachted, he's potter. The Hamarabah say the 10 like tavach potter. That's it. You're no longer a ganef. You're a gazan. My time, I give the poskila meal, so you ended your greva, but tavi shatim have a gazan. The gazan mishal misha. Why didn't he answer that? They were told him you're chayiv. You didn't say go as if it's a psak. They said, this is what you should do. But my time a kol kamad lepsikale milsa akati ganavu. In other words, when did they end it? When Bezin we had before. When Bezin says the word say, go out and pay. But if Bezin says, alpidin, you have to pay him back. That's not the same thing as a sentence go and pay. It's not a psak. Therefore, he's still a ganav, and if you're a shechted, you have to pay. So Amri, so why didn't Rabbi just answer that instead of turning this ganav into a rasha that he eats the babies? So if he's looking for other answers, why did you say 2 shuttim stole together? And then one of the shuttim went and shechted. He only shechted, therefore, since he only shechted a half animal, we had chamisha bakar and chatzi bakar, because he shechted without his friends, his accomplices' knowledge, and therefore you don't pay. In other words, there's so many other answers. What do you want? How many answers do you want? At the end of the day, he could have answered this, he could have answered that. He got one answer. Another thing. So that's din number 1. Look how the Gemara had a problem with alleging that this ganef is not from Yid. If let's say he found something, and we learned before that when you find something, you're a shamer. We had a machlekes at Rabbi Yosef whether you consider a shamer chinam or a shamer sacha, but you're a shamer. And he tainis, it was told by Aveda. And he's a shamer here, but a different kind of shamer because this is like forced on him. He didn't accept voluntarily to be a shamer. The Torah mandates that you find an object hashavas aveda and you're a shamer. And he tiny was told. Mishal Tashumi Kefil. Turned out to be that he was a guy and he pays Kefil. My time of why the Sibrit says the Pasik I'll call Aveda if he says he was there, then he goes to the Torah, and if he's caught out, you shall Shnayim V'Veyu. So included in that Pasik is a call Aveda. It talks about a shame that called about Pesha, but also includes a kol aveda, and therefore, if he says it was stolen to be a liar, he's a guy that he paid double. It says in Pasuk, that's a question. It says in Pasuk, if a person gives his friends, something to mine for him, and it was stolen, you pay double. It says ish, a person. Why? Because ain the sin as cotton klum. If a child gave you something to mine for him, and he then later is a toy and give it back to me, you don't pay double if you're caught out. If you're caught out to be lying, because it says ish. You have to pay back the ket, and you don't pay ket. Okay. Because the pasuk says Chaim Shnayim Mishal, but that but that does not apply if you're not an ish. What about the Engli that he gave it when he was a child to mine, and then he claimed he was a plaintiff when he was a child? What about Nosni? He gave it when he was a child, but he didn't demand it until he became an adult. In this case here, and you should say it was stolen, turned out to be your lie, you pay double then. Menayin, how do you know that even in that case that you don't pay double as well? Even though he's an adult right now, it has to be dvash name, that both sides of it, when he gave it, when he claimed, the both should be what? Should be an adult. Because we compare the giving to the Hamad Bedin. In ish. The misa we want them both together. The misa to have a nami if the din is that if by an aveda you treat me like a gun as if I say it was stolen and trying to be I was a liar. That's double. Having a kid given to you is no worse than aveda. Aveda has no owner. Here, in a way, it's better than aveda because it has a shtickle owner, a cotton. Okay, but it's no worse than an aveda that you're ashamed of an aveda, and there we say that if you turn times ganav, turn out to be you the ganav, you say you pay double. Why shouldn't you pay double here? What's the logic? At least treat him like an aveda. If you're right, that Abiyachin says that by an aveda you turn the ganav, you pay double. Then treat him like an aveda. By an aveda, you have nobody giving it to you. Here is talking about the Bala Bayis killed off this pekodin when the child was still a minor. So therefore, there was never a kind of it's not a case where the guy became an adult later on and then he stole it. He stole it and killed it off when the guy was still a minor. So there was nothing here. Much ain't the Aveda, there is an owner somewhere in the world, an adult who owns it. I was a godel. Someone asked me a question, so what do you tell me? But if it would have been a godel, then at least it would be like an Aveda. My hochin amin mishal. If it would have been a godel when I killed the animal, or then it would be like an aveda, and the din would be that if I turn on the gun, I'd be chayiv. So if so, no, but even though the child gave it to him, it's worthless. It's no worse than an aveda. And then when I decide, and now I'm stealing it, I'm going to bed in the godel. So l'chayda it should be like aveda. Why does the Braisa say the sin of it? We need in the sin and tviyah together. At least we need that not when you step up to court. We need the main criteria is when did he kill off the animal? If he killed off the animal, what do you call it? So we would the din should be that if he killed off the animal when the kid was an adult already, that he should be chai, and therefore we bring a pasuk and you potter. But the focus should be because it's no worse than aveda. So if we want to compare to aveda, we will look at a time when it was lost. When was it lost? When you killed it. So that we should look at an aveda and say, oh, it happened at that time. And you would think that he should be chai because now he's a gadol. Kamash on the pasuk, you have a name that you are potter. If the din is a normal aveda, you would pay double. You're right. Fix up the brayse. Actually, we would have thought that achila was when he's a gadol, you takish by double. So we have a special passing that by aveda, if you're a shamer, and the kid, where if the kid gave it to you, even though he's an adult right now, when he ate it, still you are a potter because it has to be the sinner, and the tviyah has to be both when you're an adult. Rav Ashi says, I don't know what you're talking about, dummy. How can you compare it to Aveda Koasya Mekor Bendas? Aveda, even though nobody gave it to you, the Torah gave it to you to watch who you're watching it for, an adult. So that's why the din is if you're turning to you're chayv. But over here we're talking about who gave it to you, a kid. So it's very different than Aveda. Aveda, it was given to you by Bendas. The Torah said, it says if Bendas gave it to you. You don't know who the Bendas is, but there is a Bendas out there who owns this object, and therefore the din is if you tiny with tiny gun, it turned out to be that you were yourself the gun, you pay double. By saying it over here, who's giving it to you? A child.